started so that we can go ahead and get some great information out here. The request, in fact, let me, well, we'll just start official. How's that? Okay, so I want to welcome everybody out, and my name is Tom Heintz, and I am excited to do this tonight because we're going to be working with shielding. Now, we were doing a MasterMind class last time. I think it was on, what the heck was it on? Boundaries. That's what it was. It was on boundaries. And so some of the people questioned some things about shielding. And so we thought, well, let's look at that. So that's why we have shielding tonight. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mute everybody so we don't have it popping back and forth there. And I'm going to share my screen with you. And you should be able to see my pig. Everybody see the pig? Give me a thumbs up. All right, perfect. So basically what we're going to talk about is how to use positive shielding. I say positive because you know what? We could actually have negative shielding too. How exciting is that? That's just what you want, right? Negative shielding. But the negative shielding, I think, would be also very similar to what I had today. Somebody was attracting things. And so in other words, it's like a reverse. In fact, let me write that down. It's a reverse shield in a way, kind of sucks things in. In fact, we may want to talk about black holes one of these days, because people can actually have a black hole where they're sucking things into them, or you could be leaking energy out. Well, a shield will protect you in many different ways. I thought this was a cute picture with the umbrella over the pig, because in a way that's a classic shield. So let's go ahead and let's move forward here. Our objectives tonight: to establish what a shield actually is, and also learn the benefits of having one. What questions should I ask to see if I need one? How to build a shield, training and maintaining a shield. Why do shields come down? And of course, how to use a shield as a filter, which is what we ended up talking about a little bit last time. And I wanted to expound a little bit on that because it's a great way to filter things that are getting to you. So let's move ahead. So first of all, this picture, I had a client who, in his mind, this was his shield. And so when we put the shield on him, he pictured himself, I don't know if you've seen the Wonder Woman movie, where she is jumping out of the trenches in order to move and advance the Allied forces against the Germans. And so many people haven't been able to move an inch because of the machine guns and everything else. Well, she was just torqued off about the whole thing. She gets out her shield, she pops up there, and she's going against the forces. And she is, and this is a classic picture from it. So it shows a side shot. If you can actually Google this out there and get just the little snippet from the movie. So she's out there, and as she's getting and drawing all the fire against her, then the other forces are able to move ahead, and they were able to advance into this little town and save the town. She's pretty an awesome person. I love seeing that kind of a shield, or that kind of a personality going out there and just doing what's right. Well, a shield can be any shape that you would like it to be. In the design of it is to protect you, keep you from harmful objects getting to you. Of course, we know that with armies, they've always had shields, protect you, and they have different ways of using that shield to keep things from getting to you. In the movies, frequently I'm a guy, so I like those kind of movies where they are the battles and things. But one of the first things of war, you might say, is when the two groups are coming together, or there's the one group that's in the castle and the other group is trying to advance, is that amount of arrows that they send down. And of course, the shields are up there to protect them, because otherwise their heads are exposed and it's coming down from a wrong angle. And of course, the Romans were great at developing systems where they could use those shields and create what they called the turtle, and they would protect themselves from those outside sources, whether they be rocks, whether they be spears, whether it be arrows. And the same type of thing is something that we need to protect us from all those things that we can't see. And that's really what it's all about. So pure energy is what we're going to be using to create the shield, and it can be whatever you want it to be. So superpower of the shield. Protects you from the things you can't see. Like I say, it's created through intention and can be a type of filter. Now, we see, in my mind, I see my filter as, or my shield as a actual force field that goes around me. It keeps me safe. I see it as a clear shield. And like I said, this other young man, he had it where he had the arm shield where was Wonder Woman. Another person, when she does work on somebody, she puts on her shield, she actually puts on a lab coat, and she's got it set up so that when she puts the lab coat on, in her mind, that shield is now set. Everybody with me so far? Okay, perfect. We may move through these faster than we thought. I'm going to be asking for questions and things here too, and giving other examples depending on what you have for me also. So anyway, let's go ahead. Actually, for those people who are ultimate healers, and I'm not sure I see any on there. Well, I've got Danielle's on there, Daniela. There is a spot in the book, in that book, I actually put it, there's a section called questions. And when you get to that part where you're testing and it tells you to go to the questions, a lot of times we go back there and we have multiple pages of things that we are going to be finding and or looking for, and it's a question usually that needs to be asked. I had one of those come up in a disconnect today, where we had a disconnect for, I'm trying to remember what it was exactly. Oh, it was a question of, do you attract other people's negative energies? In fact, it was right off of here. Do I broadcast message that is causing me to pick up negativity, which is number 7 down here in the under shielding. And then the other half of the and of course the answer was yes. And then the other half of the disconnect was the present, I believe. And so it was a matter of, these are things that were happening to her. And when we finally went through and corrected everything, then she was in a situation where she was no longer broadcasting that message. But it could be anything. And so when you run into shielding, if you need a place to look, you can go to this chart and you'll see that there are 9, actually 10 options there, but 9 that we really use. And they're pretty straightforward. These are things I would ask if you are able to muscle test. And if you are, and if you're not, then I would go back to some of the other MasterMind. Season 1, we talked about how to muzzle test. But do I help others by taking on their problems? Now, is it my job to take on negativity of others? Another question. Another one is I need to control things. Another one is I am vulnerable to the imbalances of others. 5, other people always dump on me. 6, I need to help others even when it's not good for me. Number 7, do I have a broadcast message that's causing me to pick up negativity? And number 8, I need to sacrifice my own balance to help others. Number 9, ask, am I or are you shielded from negative energies? Well, that's pretty straightforward there. And then underneath that, I give you an example of how to create a shield, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So as a practitioner or a parent, or even if you're working with your family, a lot of times, just like these questions indicated, you feel like you need to do things that are going to help them, and it doesn't matter what it does to you. When I first started doing the healing process, here I come. I'm a former cook, right? I just lost my restaurant. I learned how to do this, and I'm working with people now, and I got my certification for the emotion code. And still uses only one chart. And I'm working with people. They're coming to me, and I'm referrals and things. And I couldn't figure out why I was getting sick. I mean, I really got sick. And for 3 weeks, I was sick. And I'm thinking, what the heck's going on? Then I went out onto Dr. Nelson's website at the time, and I went to one of the forums. And that's when I learned, they said, well, you need to be making sure that your shields are up, and you need to be releasing the energies that you get after each session. I'm going, well, nobody told me that in the training. And here I was connecting to people. I was absorbing, I was helping them because it was releasing, but guess who it was coming to? It was coming to me. And so I got really, really sick. And that taught me that I needed to no longer do that. Shielding is extremely important. And then on top of that, just to make sure you clear yourself. And you can simply ask the question, is there something that I need to release from the session I just did? Of course, I test like this. So with the finger, so I'm pulling down, and it would say yes, and I'm going, okay, I need to release. In those days, I put my fingers over the top of my head, or I had a magnet, and I did that. Nowadays, I just go ahead and release on my wrist, or I just tap, and with the intention of releasing. And once you've got that cleared, then you know you're good to go. I think it's a really great idea. One of the ladies was using a lab coat. I mentioned it just a minute ago, where when she put that lab coat on, she was ready and protected to work with people because she knew that she was in the business mode. The shields are going to go up for her. But if you run into, okay, so if you run into any of these questions, though, do I help others by taking on their problems? Of course, we're going to want to help people. There's a reason why we're doing this work in the first place, or are interested in doing the work. You just need to be careful that you're protecting yourself also. So that's one of the things that you can do. What questions you should ask. Now, there's a zillion questions out there that you can ask. Or you could find that you may run into some other situations, which we're going to talk about a little bit, of shields that you could create. But you want to make sure you're shielded. So how do you construct a shield? Now, I put some things down here. I'm going to read them through here so you have it. Decide what you need to protect, just like the subconscious does. You know, we remove heart walls. We remove barriers, which is the opposite. You know, it's what's keeping you from something. There's sometimes, you know, like a bomb shelter. So the body will create a wall or a barrier around something that is under attack or needs protecting. Maybe it's weak. It could be your bladder. It could be the present time. It could be maybe a chakra or anything else like that. Something that's weak and needs that protection. It will create a barrier. Well, you need to decide what you're going to build a shield for. Now, we usually use the shield as a replacement for one of those walls that the body builds. The body usually goes and it will create something from the sources that it has around us, like energies, like emotions, trapped emotions, negative emotions. It could use toxins. It could use psychic traumas, anything that energy, you know, psychic trauma is a pretty good size ball of energy because it's a combination of emotions. Well, sometimes those walls are constructed of those psychic traumas. So once we remove those, you need something that's going to still protect the body, because that was the reason it had the wall in the first place. And that's where we come in with shields. So once you've decided what you need to protect, then you can move forward to the next step, basically. We're establishing exactly what will happen when the shield is applied. I've got, let's see. Let me walk through this part, and then I'll walk back again, and I'll tell you about a story. I've mentioned it before, but I think it's worth telling again. So you want to establish exactly what will happen when the shield is applied. You know, think about, okay, what's the results? What am I after? And what will happen if I use this particular wording? It's important how you word them. The next thing is using intention. You state what you are specifically doing. You know, your subconscious is just like Google. If you type in something and you Google it and you use certain words, say, like, for example, the night I was looking for force field. I had force field together, and it showed me certain pictures. And then I had force and field, and it showed me a different set of pictures. The difference was how it was worded. Even when you're working with yourself, there's sometimes your subconscious will I had to make this correction on my own, was that Tom, my name, was different than Thomas. It viewed me as different. And I had to actually go in and change some things to make that work together. So when you're creating a shield, you need to remember that it's going to do exactly what you ask it to do. There's a key. Then using muscle testing, go and see if it was installed and done correctly. So I was going to tell you a story. I had a young man that was in here, and he has a fear problem. Let's just put it that way. He has a lot of fear. We've worked on this for years, actually, on and off, depending on where he is. And I believe that, you know, we're helping, we're making differences, and I've seen improvements. And he's now in college, and it's kind of fun to see him grow as I've worked with him through the years. And one day he was in here, and he was just saying, I just am picking up everybody's emotions. I am so tired of being sad and all these different emotions that everybody has with them. And I said, well, you know, you can build some shields for various things. And we talked about different kinds of shields. And then, you know, he went home, and then the next time he came in and saw me, his complaint was different. He said, I'm not feeling anything. He says, I don't care about my family. I don't care about anybody anymore. Nothing seems to be affected. And his mother would come with him, and she would say, yeah, he's just like mean. We don't understand what's going on with him. He just has no interest in the family. And I said, well, let's figure out what's going on here. And so we talked and talked, and then it just popped into my head. Thank goodness for intuition. I said, okay, so have you been creating any shields? And he said, yeah, I made a few shields. And after we had talked the time before, he knew how to do that. And anybody can create a shield. And so I said, well, what kind of shields are you talking about? Last time we were talking about how many emotions that you were absorbing from other people. He says, yeah, I went home and I created a shield that would keep me from absorbing emotions from other people. I'm going, okay, this is exactly what's happening. And I said, look at this. Look at the situation right now. You don't care about anybody because you're not feeling anything. His eyes got big, and he's like, oh, wow. And what we ended up doing was we actually tore down all the shields that he had created. We just tore them all down. We just removed everything that we'd ever created. And then we went back and systematically put the ones together in the correct format. Even the basic shield, we redid it. And so when you do these things, they actually do make a difference. So it's important. So I gave you an example of the basic shield that I place on everybody after I remove a heart wall. Is I put the name, let's say the name is Ralph. Ralph, I'm placing a shield around you. It covers you completely and is permanent. It will keep all the negative energies, negative entities from you, but will allow the positive to come and go at will. I call this my spiritual Gore-Tex. So Gore-Tex obviously keeps water out. It's a material that they use for shoes and things. So it keeps the water out, but allows the air to breathe. So I call it the spiritual Gore-Tex because it keeps all the negative out and the negative entities out, but allows the positive to come and go at will. I always throw an extra clause in. And in this situation, I go, hey, it's a special today. We're throwing in an extra clause. When you invoke your shield, by saying shields up, all the negative will be put on the outside of the shield and not trapped inside. Somebody actually asked me that, and I thought, will they get trapped inside? I go, we'll see. We'll see. We'll check that out. Does this make sense so far, what I've been telling you? Thumbs up? All right. Okay. So let's go on to the next one here. What kind of shields can you have? Now, most of the time, we don't think about anything other than what we've been taught. And that is, if you're studying the motion code, then they teach you that you should be building a shield to replace the energy that was being used in the walls. Interesting thought here, and I'll throw this out here right now because I think this might be a good place to put it. When you are looking at the wall or the construction of the wall for your heart wall, whether it's your kidney wall, whether it's a brain wall, whether it's a wall around your left toe, who knows where it's going to be. The heart is the one that I usually do this with, but I'll say, okay, so the wall was built. Is there a door or a window that your heart can see out? And somebody actually asked me that when I was working with a young lady, and she said, well, does my wall have a window or a door? And I'd never thought of that before. And lo and behold, she did. And I thought, wow, this is great. So now I ask it on a fairly regular basis. Same thing, I go, one of the things I ask is do you have a window? Sometimes it's a clear wall, they can see. And they would say yes. And a lot of people like to watch the people trying to get closer to them through their walls. But then I ask, do you have a door? Yeah, they have a door. Has it ever been used? And the answer, 90% of the time, no. They've never ventured out of that little enclosure that they put their heart. So when you're building a shield, the question is, can you have doors and windows in the shield? And the answer is yes. Think about that. Now that's an interesting thing that you want to make sure that it's closed tight, when it's protecting you. But I thought that was interesting. And who knows, maybe it's like a two-way mirror. There's something to think about. But you can put a shield around just about anything, and that's what the body does with walls. So if the heart or the kidney is under attack, then it will build a shield around the kidney, and you'll sometimes find that also. But you can build it just about around just about anything. And there's the general shields, like I just explained. I had one I used for mosquitoes. Everybody gets excited about that. Now, what was going on was I was camping, and I was living up in Washington at the time. And as a former cook, the Boy Scouts really like to invite me to go with them on their camporees. And this one, they were going to be gone for a week up at Lake Ozette up there on the peninsula of Washington, which is absolutely gorgeous. It's beautiful lake and trees, and they got mosquitoes this big, and there's lots of them. And I seem to be a magnet for the mosquitoes, and I would have more bumps than I would have if I had measles. So I was concerned about that, and I thought, can I build a shield for mosquitoes? And the thought popped into my head, and I asked, and I tested. I said, can I do that? And the answer came back, yes, you can. I'm going, So I went ahead and created a shield. The same thing. I said, it keeps all biting. I expanded it. I said, all biting insects from getting to me. And then I was out there at a campfire, and they're just buzzing around my face. They're not biting, but they're in my face. They're in my eyes. They're just everywhere. And I said, okay, screw this. Let's go ahead and let's revamp that shield. So this time I said, no flying insects or biting insects within 3 feet of me. I put a little spacer in there, and lo and behold, 90% of the time that works. Now, I think that it has to do with your faith level and being able to, because, sometimes it's kind of spooky to have, exposure like that, and you're trusting something you can't see. It's like some people put a hand down on the ground and an ant will bite it. Or there's a bee and it will bite it. But yet if you think about it and you put a protection, you can put your hand right on the nest and they will not bite you. Now, if you're allergic, I wouldn't test it too hard there, but that is something you can do. And it's interesting to see what the intention can do. So you could build mosquito shields. I've done that. Radiation shields. Now, there's devices, they look like pyramids, that you can have that will help build an area that will protect you from radiation of radio waves and gamma rays and all these different things. But what I found is that I can also build a shield that will protect my room. And I use that, and I'll test, was my room protected? And the answer will be yes. And that's the main thing you need to realize. You got remember is that it's your intention, whatever it is you're going to be putting it around. Let's see, food shields. There's different kinds of things. Now we have allergies, we have intolerances. A lot of times we can go in there, we can release those, but you could also build a food shield of some kind, depending on what your needs are. Emotion shields, that's like the young man I was telling you about who had the different emotions. He built that shield that was keeping the emotions from everybody else from getting to him. I think it was even keeping the emotions from himself from being there. And a lot of times people build a not feeling shield. Now, sometimes when I do work, a lot of people will feel this energy as I release it. I'll say, did you feel that? And they go, oh, wow, yeah, it was just coming up. And I'll describe where I feel it when it releases. But for them, they sometimes go, I didn't feel anything. I said, it's okay. It's okay. Or I'll have them test. A lot of times I'll say, from a heart wall, I can say the energy is coming out here. And I said, it's about a foot out there. Put your hand out there and put your fingers there. And you can usually feel the bubble or the balloon, you might say, of that energy as it grows, because you're going to release it. And it has a tendency to come out of the body. And when they go, I don't feel anything. And I said, okay, that's fine. And what we find out is that sometime in their life, usually this happens, I'd say 90% of the time, when it's just so much they can't bear the emotion or the hurt anymore. And they say, I'm tired. I don't want to feel this anymore. And the body says, oh, okay. and it builds a shield that will not let you feel. So sometimes we have to go in and tear that down so they can start to see the repair that's being done. Let's see, what do we got next? Okay, one of the things I tell people when we release the heart wall and we place a shield on at the end of the session, depending on what they need, I always tell them that, okay, shield must be trained. It's if it's going to function correctly. Now, I've been doing this quite a while now. Started back in 2010 and full time as of 2015. And my shield will usually pretty much come up automatically. Now, periodically, if I take a nap or if I'm out there and I just feel a little weird, and I'll say, oh, hang on a sec, Tom, shield's up. Oh no, okay, hang on, shield's up, because you can feel that sucking in when it's not right. If you're working with it. But normally my shields will pop up and I will disconnect from the client that I was just working with automatically. And that will happen after time. But to start off with, you need to make sure you're doing this. So I always tell people, you know, a shield has to be trained, and every day when you wake up, you should be saying, shields up. That's how hard it is. Shields up. It's the old Star Trek saying. And one of the things that I noticed, and I'll take a sec here. So you got the shields up, and you need to do that throughout the day. So, I mean, how many people actually stay happy the entire day, or you're staying positive? And sometimes we let things get to us. And when that happens, in the beginning, your shield will start to slide. Now, if you get a thought, a weird thought in your head that, like, where the heck did that thought come from? I have that happen periodically. I'm just thinking, man, that was from left field. What is that about? And then I go, oh, wait a minute, is my shield up? And at that point, I'll test and I'll say, no. And I'll say, okay, shield's up, boom, and that thought will just kind of dissipate. And I'm thinking, wow, well, there's a powerful thing right there. So you want to make sure that you keep it up. I always suggest that, you know, put them on some sticky notes. Put one in your bedroom, put one in the bathroom on the mirror, put one in your car, maybe one at work in a spot that you can see it, just so that you kind of keep it up and it'll be easier and protect you more. One of the things that it will protect you from is from a negative person who, you know, they call them energy vampires. I'm sure we've all experienced them. You're feeling fine, and they come in and they start talking to you, and you're just like, pretty soon you're just like dragging, and they're all happy and nice, and then they walk away, and you feel like you've just been robbed because they took all your energy. Well, if you have your shield up, and I always tell people, watch, just be observant. So when that person comes around next time, make sure your shield's up, and then you simply say, I just watch them, just observe. And then you'll find that they will lose interest in you sooner, and they'll just kind of wander away, and they won't even know why. But that's because they can't get to your energy. You're not feeding them. Think about it. Animals usually come to you when you have food. And so when you don't have something to give them, they'll wander away to see if they can find it somewhere else. So I was going to tell you, one of the other things that was interesting, I was working with somebody, and I used to always just check, are your shields up? Oh, yeah, they're up. Good. They asked, well, what percentage are they up? I'm going, what do you mean, what percentage are they up? You know, it's just, well, you know, they could be, you know, down 50%. I thought, well, shoot, yeah, it's just like on Star Trek. You know, you keep getting hit and hit and hit and hit. And what happens is that energy starts to go, and pretty soon, Captain, we've only got 40% left. Captain, we're down to 10%. And so I started doing that when I started to get that feeling, you know, and you can put that on your list to ask questions and say, what is the percentage of that shield? Because some of it may be still getting through because your shield's not all the way up. It's up, but it's very thin. It's been under attack, and maybe it needs to be boosted. So periodically, I have to increase the size of shields for people to make sure that they're going to be accomplishing what they need to do. Or maybe alter. If they've got a situation that's especially bad in their house or something they're dealing with, then we might want to go in and make a change on that. So frequently I get asked, so what do you do if your shield won't go up? Well, if people don't muscle test, they're not even going to know if their shield's up. They're going to be saying shield's up, and there could be something that's keeping it from going up. Or maybe it made it go down. Maybe you got it's like somebody's got their foot in the door and it won't close all the way. And so the shield is just kind of stuck. In that situation, I put some troubleshooting down here. I say a prayer. That's the first thing I do, is I say a prayer, because I know I need to be protected. In fact, that's my go-to if I test incorrectly. I've only had this happen to me twice. Because people they come to me all the time. They say, I'm not able to test. I've been fortunate to not have that happen. But the time that it did, I'm just like going, oh my gosh, this is what they're talking about. And my go-to is always the same. Doesn't matter what's going on here. This is the same type of troubleshooting. You say a prayer. Ask for some help. Be humble. Ask for help, and then test to see if it isn't going up. You'll feel a difference when your shield is up. Now, meditation could be another way, depending on what your belief systems are. But because I work with angels so much, I work with entities, I figure they're there, God's there. I'm going to pray to the big man himself and get some extra help. Get some help from another healer. Now, my ultimate healers, they can swap stuff out there. That's nice. That when I first started, there was 2 ladies that I swapped, 3 actually, 3 that I swapped with on a regular basis. And not only did I learn a lot of stuff from them, it was always nice to know that I had some place to go so that I could get some help to get that shield up where it's supposed to be. Let's see. Check for negatives or entities or negativity, saboteurs. I worked with this one lady who we kept releasing entities. And when I say, you got to keep your shields up, got to keep your shields up. And I couldn't figure out what was going on, because she'd come back and she'd say, I still can't test. The entities are back. And I'm like, wow, how is this happening? And one time I found that there was a hole that had been drilled into her shield. I'm thinking, how does this stuff happen? I mean, this is crazy. I mean, we're already dealing with stuff we can't see. How can it be so literal? And it turned out later on that she was creating the entities inside. In other words, these were from her imagination. And doesn't mean that they're any less real, because she was creating, she expected them to be there, and they were created, and they'd be on the inside of her shield. I'm going, the shield, and I kept testing, is the shield adequate? And the answer was yes. Is there something else I'm supposed to do? No. And then it was later that I'm just like, wait a minute. And when I tested, I said, are you creating these yourself? And the answer was yes. She was creating both demons and devils, and they were attacking her. And because they were created and they were what they were, they kept her from being able to test correctly. Wow. That's kind of a crazy thing, but that can happen. Now, let me tell you something real quick, just so you understand. Just because I'm experiencing these things or I have seen these things doesn't mean that that's something that you're going to experience. I think the more you work with this, the more that is expected of you. And the more that I learn, the more is expected of me. And so there's certain things that I have to do to make sure I stay within the boundaries and make sure that they're clear. Now, if you're new to this, I believe that God makes up the difference. So you can work with somebody, you can, and just knowing, as you know, you do what you can and move forward. You kind of follow what I'm saying there? I say that you don't have to have the level of expertise to be protected, because sometimes you just get so scared and go, well, no, I can't get into this because this is going to be all over my head. And the answer is no. It just gives you just get to stair step. It's bit by bit, piece by piece. And this is information for you so that you can move forward. Let's see, what else do we have? Why do shields come down? Okay, so I thought this might be an appropriate little picture here of the collapse of your shield. Entities are really nasty little buggers. And they will scream in your ears, and they will tell you how crappy you are and how worthless and how you just should go up and kill yourself. And you can't even hear it with your regular ears, but your subconscious ears can hear everything. Your subconscious can see 360 degrees around you. It can hear everything. It knows what's going on. And it takes those things in and just like getting beat down. So this is why shields are important. But when your shields are up, it won't go through. It's soundproof. But when the shield starts to slide, or it can get a thought in there somewhere where you can start to think negatively, that might slip a little bit, and they're right there yelling at you and trying to make you influenced, which brings us to the next one. So you got entities, you got negativity, and I put under the influence. Now, if you are not in your right mind, in one way or another, whether it's drink, whether it's drugs, whether it's sickness, there's a lot of different things that can make you so that you're not thinking straight. And at that point, if they can get you to the point what they call post-hypnotic energies, then a lot of times you can be influenced incorrectly, and that's when the shield starts sliding. Now, I believe that God protects the innocent, but sometimes we put ourselves in a situation where we become vulnerable. So post-hypnotic could be music. It could be, I mean, we're talking music that puts you into that mode, like video games. I mean, how many people have listened and played video games, and you go, well, okay, I got an hour I can play here. And next thing you know, it's 10 o'clock at night, and you didn't even realize that it had happened. That's what we're talking about being in a post-hypnotic state. Sleep. Sleep is a big one. You know, sometimes my sleep is not very calm. I am running from something. Maybe it's the shows I watch before I go to bed, or the things that have been going on. You know, sometimes I'm sitting there trying to solve problems, and I just put myself into. And sometimes your body's got to release certain things, and so there might be negative thoughts and dreams and things. That's one way your body uses it, gets rid of stuff, but it can also make your shields go down. So I have checked repeatedly to find out if, you know, when I wake up and go, shields up? Oh yeah, good. No, they're down. You know, put them up. And then self-inflicted carelessness. Well, you don't bother to say shields up. You don't bother to keep thinking about it. You don't bother to think about what's going on around you. And I have a lot of people that I work with that come back and you know, it's nice when you're working, and I would say, you know, once a week, every couple of weeks, maybe every 3 weeks. Some people go once a month. But once a month seems to be just a little far out there, and a lot of times you'll forget what it is that you're trying to accomplish. I love it when I get somebody up here and they come on, that's the first thing I check, are your shields up? And I'll say, fantastic, you're doing great. You've been working on that, haven't you? And they usually have been, because otherwise they don't normally go up. I had a person just the other day that came on, and I looked. I was checked to see, because I have their files and I got all the information's in there, and so I got every summary, and I looked at it and it said, oh, okay, so last time we were here was on February 14th. Okay, wow. Okay, so it's been a couple weeks, and she goes, oh no, relook at that date. I looked at it, said 2019. It had been a year since I had seen her. And that happens actually more frequently than I'm surprised. I keep all the files so that if somebody comes back in, I can look them up pretty easily. And sometimes it's 2-3 years ago, but they remembered how they felt when we worked before, and they go, oh, I need to get a clearing. This is something going on. A lot of people do that. So any questions on that one? If you are, just unmute yourself and ask. Okay, I'll keep moving. Must be clear for everybody. Okay, so filters. We talked about that last week, and some people are empaths. You know, they pick up everything from everybody, and I just feel crappy all the time. I don't dare do this work because I'm going to pick this up and I'll feel bad. You know, like I was sick for 3 friggin' weeks when I first started doing this the first time around, you know, back in 2010. Until I learned that I had to have the shields. And one of the things that popped into my head when we were talking about this was, you can use a shield as a filter. So just like you use different screens, you know, if you're filtering rocks or whatever, or in this situation, look at the difference when the filter is used on a camera. It'll filter out some of the stuff that you don't want. And it makes your picture much, much nicer when you put the correct filter in place. Well, you can actually create that filter by the same way you would build a shield. Let's ask, do you need to call it a filter? No, you can call it a shield, but use it with the intention of creating that filter. You can call it a filter, I suppose, but you need to figure out what it is that you're trying to filter Because once again, if you go too far, you won't be able to do certain things because it'll keep that stuff out. It keeps everything out, whatever. So you need to make sure. Now, remember what I said on my shield? I say it's going to keep all the negative energies, negative entities of all kinds, but allow the positive to come and go at will as needed. So there's my filter in a way, is I'm keeping the negative out. They're too big to get through, but the positive can come through. One of the things I notice when I work with people is that it popped right out of my head. Hang on a sec, it'll come back in again. I guess I was filtering. Anyway, let's see. Oh shoot. It'll come back to me. It was a really good thought. Y'all are missing out. Anyway, let's go see what else we got. Hey, okay, so where are we at time-wise? Yeah, we're cranking. So I'm open to questions, folks. What do you got for me? And I'll think of that other thing that I was going to tell you here, I'm sure, or maybe after we're all done. There's a bunch of you out there. What are you thinking? Questions?
Tom?
Yes, Miss Linda.
Hi there. Just a quick question and a comment, because it was very thought-provoking when you were talking about building shields to protect yourself. What about things like, because we all, or most of us, work out of our homes, EMF, you've got wireless computers, routers, these kinds of things. Can we build shields to protect us from that exposure of radiation?
I believe so. What you need to do is, that's what I do. I don't have any special device in here. Originally I thought I had to have everything, and I was buying magnets from Nikon. I was doing all these extra things to try and make my job easier here, supposedly, with everything they said I needed to have. And everybody talks about that. And I thought, well, let's ask. And that's the first thing I always say is, if you think you can do it, you probably can, but ask your subconscious whether or not it's allowed. And if it is, then go ahead and do it. Now, I have done that. That's exactly what I did with my areas. I protect myself from the EMF by building a shield. I have built shields around houses. I've been built shields around rooms. I sometimes include, when I'm surrounding a house, because I clear a lot of houses. So we have entities there. We got all different kinds of entities. And so sometimes what I need to do is I'll say, okay, so we're covering your house all the way out to your mailbox. So you can specify the area that you want it to be covered. And like I said, test. If you believe it can happen, it can probably happen. So, and then just see what happens. See how strong is your faith and what you can do. Does that answer your question, Linda?
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Hi, Tom.
Hi. Hi, how you doing?
Good. So I know that I am able to put my shield up because you have said that I have had it up before. But how can I be 100% that it is up? Like, or maybe I'm just careless and I run into these issues without being aware to put my shield up. Like I find myself sometimes unprotected, I guess, and I don't know if it's because my shield is down and I didn't really put an effort on really.
So I'm testing on you. Yeah, I'm testing on you while we're talking here, and you're describing it correctly. Usually, it's what you end up thinking is what's going to happen, and you sometimes your shields are up, and you're strong when you have the shields up, and sometimes the shields are down. But you got to remember, when you are think about, and this is the way that I can tell, if you're not able to muscle test, I think you are, but I think if you're feeling that you're doubting, that's probably an indication that your shields are maybe sliding a little bit. And I think that they can actually kind of slide down and open up a hole. And that might be something, because I know that when I get that and it pops in and I go, well, my shield's almost up. And then I get that thought that come into my head and I go, where the heck did that come from? I was like, how many times have you all been working with me and I said, oh, I feel like getting a pizza. or I feel like eating something, and I'm thinking, is my client thinking about that type of food? Am I picking up on that, or what's going on? So you never know. If you get a weird stuff like that, then check. And I recommend that you just do the sway test or something simple, or like I said, say a prayer. Say a prayer. Make sure that pops up there. That's the best way to do it. Trust in your God. I don't care what your beliefs are, but trust in a higher source to be able to. And that higher source could also be that part of you. It's your subconscious that needs the okay to do it. Remember, there's 5.5 parts of you too. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's true. I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah, there's 5.5 parts of you that are, if your A team is on board and everybody's supporting you, you're pretty dang strong. But once you have maybe had a disconnect or a sinking issue, say for example, you've got a really bad relationship that's going on. You're suffering with a dear friend, and something happens. I mean, anything can happen, and your keeper is thin, and the keeper is the part of you that's all about connections. And the keeper is a little frustrated. The keeper is actually kind of anal, and they don't like to have relationships end. They always want them to continue forever, and that's not the case. That it doesn't always work. So could be a part of you that kind of gets negative too, and that doesn't help you keep your shield up either sometimes. So there's a lot of different mitigating factors, but I find that the love of God can get your shield up there, and if it's not there, install it so that so that you got one. Did that answer your question, Nijara?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Okay. Somebody else?
Just to say, Tom, that, oh my gosh, it's so important to shield ourselves, because it happened over and over again to me that my client feels better and I feel worse after.
That's where you need to make sure you release it. But you're still fairly new. I mean, you're really good at what you do, but you just got to keep that in mind and make sure you have your own shields up there.
Yes, walking out in the grass, and it's also a good option, or just go out and take some sun, and yeah, that works for me too.
Interesting that you would say that. Sometimes, when I first started doing this, we were always told to use magnets to do the releasing. And then they say, you got to make sure that you don't have somebody that's got a pacemaker or something. So I'm going, oh my gosh, I better go buy a crystal. So I went and got a crystal. I'm going, how do I clean this thing? Because the energy will build up and actually it will turn darker. And that's what they recognize. Either put it in salt or take it outside and let the sun hit it. And that will help cleanse that. Remember, light is higher frequency. Light is cleansing. That's just like the reverse. Darkness takes you in the wrong, lower frequencies. So makes sense.
Yeah. So when I was in Argentina, Tom, they told me, when you have the rocks and crystals and all that, you have to make sure that you wash them every night.
That you have to do what?
Wash them with soap and water.
I'll wash them with soap and water. Makes sense.
I mean, really, their explanation was they absorb a lot of energies that are not always the great energy. So you have to wash them and cleanse them so that they can do its full potential. So,
a thought just popped into my head too. We have solar panels on our house, and we just moved into this brand new house for us. And we have pigeons or doves or something up there. They're making a lot of cooing sounds. I think they're probably doves. But one of the comments that somebody said was, you got to make sure that they don't mess up your panels. You got to keep them clean. And I thought, wow, okay, so that may be the same thing with our shields as we are trying, think about it. You're not going to be able to project a good shield if you have a low frequency going on inside of you. I think they're still effective, but, who knows? It doesn't hurt to go do a little maintenance and shine up your shield a little bit. It might work better for you. So the question is,
who just talked that was from Argentina? I'm just curious.
Well, that was Ijera, Merck.
Oh, okay. I'm from Argentina too.
There you go.
I'm from Bolivia, but I was just in Argentina for a class.
She gets around. She goes all over the place.
Oh yes, I got to Ushuaia too.
Cool.
Where from Argentina are you? Sorry, Tom, we're bombarding you.
North part, Tucumán.
Ah, okay.
Awesome.
Cool. I know
Nice to
that
meet
some
you.
of the times we could do this whole meeting in Spanish and I wouldn't understand a word of it. Any other questions on shielding?
Hey, Tom.
Yes. Oh, there you are.
Yeah. One of the things that I wanted to mention is that, when we went to the Ultimate Healers, when we got together in December there, one of the things that when we were working, I guess, on Glenda and myself, you checked to see if there was a shield. Now, we originally went to Park City and went through the emotion code and everything like that, and they teach you how to put a shield up. And so that's what we thought we did, and we've been maintaining them and everything. But when you looked at it, you said you could hardly tell that there was one there. So I was kind of surprised because I thought a shield is a shield, but apparently it's not, because you went ahead and added something to it and made it a lot stronger, which it's been more obvious now. But should we be checking for that too? Because that was something I learned that was very important.
I agree with you, David. I keep learning new things every single week. Sometimes it's every day. I keep thinking, I've done thousands and thousands of sessions, and I keep learning new stuff. And sometimes I don't even think about it. One of the things that when we're working with something like shields, you think about what is it? What would be the comparison? In other words, okay, so let's take Star Trek, and they got the shields. I think it was you that asked me what is the strength of the shield. Well, I think it was. But anyway, we were talking about that, and I'm going, well, yeah, just think about what the shield is under attack, and you would lose, every time it got hit, maybe some of that energy would go away. And I think that we just need to continually be aware of what can happen. I was really, and this sounds like it's off in another world here, but I personally, I don't believe in reincarnation, but I didn't know what past lives was until somebody explained it to me, and I'm going, oh my gosh, of course you could have past lives. We are progressing from stage to stage to stage. That would be a past life. It's not reincarnation. It's a different thing. And I believe that reincarnation is simply a matter that you were a ministering angel for somebody in your family who experienced it, and you were there. So as you get different things and they become clear, all of a sudden things will drop into place. And I think that we're given grace periods of what we don't know. I think God is very, very good to us in that He will protect us and help us with He'll make up the difference until, and we're expected to continue to grow on this. But I find that as I pick up more information, I'm going, oh crap, oh yeah, that should have been, that makes perfect sense. Why didn't I think of that before? So don't ever beat yourself up because you didn't know. And I think you were probably shielded more. It's just that we found that it wasn't enough.
Right.
And so that was kind of the way that when you look at it from a different perspective, maybe that's what is, you come up from a higher angle or under, I don't know how you would explain that, but from informational basis, there's all kinds of things I don't know. And we get into the science thing. I've got this coronavirus that I'm thinking about now.
Yeah.
Can we build a shield that protects us from this? I believe we can.
Mm-hmm.
And that might be really good, especially when I'm thinking about going to Malaysia in a couple of weeks. And
Yes, Tom, you need to do that.
Yeah.
Definitely while traveling.
Yes.
Right now.
So that's something that I know that I know it's tested positive. It's a possibility, and it's something I should do. Absolutely. And just remember, you can place shields on just about anything. Like I said, I did it on people's houses in Europe when I was here. All over the world, if they have entities or whatever, you can create those shields. Well, if we can keep those out, we should be able to keep the other out. Is it 100% perfect? It says no. but we're a lot better than we all ever were before. And as we learn the system, you know, we learn more about it, then obviously it's going to make more sense. I don't know. It's a great question. Anything else, folks?
Hey, Tom, this is Linda again. I just wanted to ask you, if you're going to be in Malaysia in a couple of weeks, does that mean we won't have a session, the Thursday session?
I will be there for a week. And what I need to know, let's see, let me look real quick here. We are looking at, today's the 27th. Oh, what we're going to do is we're going to change it to the 2nd and 4th Thursdays. That was my wife wanted me to let everybody know that. Instead of every other Thursday, well, if we just do the 2nd and 4th, that way we know which one it is supposed to be.
Okay.
Okay, but having said that, let me look real quick here. Okay, so that one there, so that would be the 12th would be our next one. And yeah, the 26th is right what I'm doing there. Yeah, we're not going to do one on that day. That's just too much for me. I've already and it's Malaysia time.
So does that mean then you'll just skip that week and wait 2 weeks again?
It'll be the 2nd, yeah, to the 9th of April will be the next one.
Okay, so March the 12th and the 9th of April.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. You guys won't get a free class. Yeah, I spent a little bit of time getting that, but I think you guys feel these are worth it?
Absolutely, especially for us newbies.
Yep. Hey, we want to start another another Ultimate Healer group too. And that'll happen, and I'll send information out. Those of you that are interested in becoming Ultimate Healers, we want to go ahead and get that going. You can start anytime. I mean, we can start you today if you wanted to do that. But every, maybe we'll do it the same thing. The 2nd and 4th Thursday after this was usually when we do our Q&A for those people. Does that make sense? Did I completely confuse you? Okay, so basically what we're saying is that when we have the Ultimate Healer program going, and anybody who's an Ultimate Healer already is always invited to go through the Q&As again. I think it's always really good because we would go through, there's 5 modules in there, and as you go through it, sometimes you have questions. We've done this twice already, so there's a lot of Q&A time out there already, but we will create new ones, and then we always record it and stick it out there for the benefit of everybody else. And then, so if we do that on the same nights that we do this training here, we go for an hour, and then we stop, and then I go for another hour or so with the Ultimate Healers. Is that clear as mud? Okay.
No, it's great. Thanks.
Okay. So let me know if you're interested in doing that. We would like to get a group to do. I already got some people that are going to be doing it. So I love to make it a bigger group. All right. Anything else? Well then, I think we will end. Oh, I should have just closed this little bugger down and gone back to just me, huh?
Thank you, Tom.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Oh, I got a couple chats here too. What did you put on there? Oh, you guys are Spanish speaking here. Okay, I won't worry about it. All right.
Is that Latina blood?
Well, I wish I spoke Spanish. I speak German, but it hasn't really helped me a whole lot. So. Okay, we'll talk to y'all later then. Talk to you next time.
Okay, safe travels.
Thank you.
Yes, safe travels.
Bye-bye.
Bye.